Stellantis CEO just announced the end of 4 brands through Stellantis crisis, and the ripple effects could send shockwaves across the entire car industry. This is only the start of something way bigger. We are going to look how these problems began, which brands are on the verge of bankruptcy, and what impact this could have on you. Trust me, it's bigger than you ever expected. What's happening? Stellantis is now teetering on the brink of disaster. The warning signs have been there for years, but now they're impossible to ignore. The company's biggest brands, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Chrysler, are no longer the industry giants they once were. Their dominance has eroded, and their presence in the market is shrinking rapidly. For Dodge, the story is one of sharp decline. The muscle car brand, synonymous with raw power and bold performance, is now a shadow of its former self. Jeep, the rugged icon of adventure, has also lost its grip on the market. Even Ram, which once stood tall in the truck segment, is feeling the squeeze. Chrysler, with its limited lineup, is barely holding on. This collapse didn't happen overnight. Stellantis has been making one poor decision after another, alienating its customers and frustrating its dealers. From outdated models to a lack of innovation, the company has failed to adapt to a changing market. The result, an empire that is crumbling from within. But what are the causes of these disasters? Inventory overload. The situation at Stellantis is far worse than it appears on the surface. Dealerships across the country are overflowing with unsold vehicles. Rows upon rows of Dodge Challengers, Jeep Wranglers, and Ram pickups sit untouched, collecting dust. It's an unsettling sight that speaks to a much deeper problem. So how did this happen? After supply chain issues disrupted production, Stellantis made the decision to ramp up manufacturing to replenish its inventory. On paper, it sounded like a good idea, but as the company flooded the market with vehicles, demand began to shift. Buyers moved on, searching for newer, more exciting options elsewhere. Compounding the issue is the fact that many of these unsold cars are outdated models. In an industry where innovation drives sales, Stellantis is lagging behind. Consumers are looking for vehicles with cutting-edge features and bold designs, but Stellantis is still offering cars that feel stuck in the past. This disconnect has left dealerships struggling to move inventory, creating a growing financial burden for both the company and its dealer network. Dealer failures. For dealerships, this crisis is a nightmare. They're drowning in unsold inventory, and every day these vehicles sit on the lot. The pressure mounts. Dealers rely on consistent sales to stay afloat, but the lack of consumer interest is pushing many of them to the brink. The blame, according to the Stellantis National Dealer Council, lies squarely with the company's leadership. In a strongly worded letter, the council criticized CEO Carlos Tavares for his short-sighted decision-making. They argue that his strategies focus too much on immediate profits and fail to address long-term growth. Dealers are particularly angry about the company's decision to slash marketing budgets and restructure compensation plans. These changes have left dealerships without the tools they need to attract buyers. Imagine being a dealer with a lot full of unsold cars and no way to market them. It's a recipe for frustration, and it's creating a growing sense of resentment within the Stellantis network. What's worse is that these problems aren't isolated. The company's struggles are part of a much larger issue. Stellantis isn't just dealing with poor sales, it's facing a complete breakdown in its relationship with dealers, customers, and the market itself. What's driving the crisis? At the heart of Stellantis' struggles are 3 key issues. First, the company has alienated its most loyal customers by shifting away from traditional engines. For years, Dodge and Ram were celebrated for their V8 engines, the beating heart of their most iconic vehicles. But Stellantis' move to turbocharged inline-6 engines has left fans feeling betrayed. Second, Stellantis has fallen behind its competitors when it comes to offering incentives. While other automakers are luring buyers with aggressive discounts and financing options, Stellantis is sticking with a limited promotional approach. This lack of incentives has left dealers struggling to compete in an already tough market. The company's decision to raise vehicle prices is pushing buyers away. In an economy where affordability is top of mind, Stellantis' pricing strategy feels out of touch. With rising interest rates and economic uncertainty, consumers are looking for value, but Stellantis isn't delivering it. And together, these issues paint a picture of a company that has lost its way. The crisis at Stellantis isn't just about numbers, it's about a disconnect between the company and the people it serves. And unless something changes, the consequences could be devastating. The engine controversy. Engines are the heart and soul of a vehicle. For decades, Dodge and Ram have been celebrated for their raw, thunderous V8 engines. machines that deliver the kind of power you can feel in your chest. These engines were not just a feature, they were an identity, but Stellantis has made a controversial decision to phase them out in favor of something newer, the Hurricane twin-turbo inline-6 engine. On the surface, this shift might seem like a step forward. The Hurricane engine is designed to be more fuel efficient and environmentally friendly, boasting reduced emissions and advanced engineering. Stellantis claims it offers the same level of power as the V8 while consuming less fuel, a seemingly perfect balance of performance and efficiency. But here is the issue. Longtime fans of Dodge and Ram are not buying it, literally. For these enthusiasts, the move away from the iconic V8 feels like a betrayal. The unmistakable roar of a V8 engine, the sense of raw, unfiltered power. It is all part of the Dodge and Ram experience. For many, these engines are more than just technology. They are a symbol of everything these brands stand for. And no matter how many improvements Stellantis touts, it is hard to replace that visceral connection. This skepticism is not just coming from loyalists. Dealers too are wary. They know their customers, and they know that convincing a die-hard Dodge or Ram fan to embrace a turbocharged inline-6 engine is an uphill battle. Stellantis is banking on consumers adapting to this shift, but for now, the response has been lukewarm at best. Consumer backlash. The backlash from consumers has been as loud as the engine Stellantis is trying to replace. For many drivers, Dodge and Ram are not just vehicles, they are a lifestyle. They are about unapologetic power, strength, and a sense of identity that comes with driving something that commands attention. Replacing the roaring V8 with a quieter, more subdued inline-6 feels like a compromise that no one asked for. This change highlights a larger disconnect between Stellantis and its audience. Consumers are not opposed to innovation. Far from it. They just want innovation that respects the heritage of the brands they love. The problem is that Stellantis seems to be prioritizing numbers over nostalgia, efficiency over excitement. There is also the issue of trust. For years, fans have come to rely on the dependability and performance of V8 engines. They know what they are getting, and they like it that way. Switching to a new engine, no matter how advanced, introduces uncertainty. Will it deliver the same performance? Will it last as long? These are the questions consumers are asking, and Stellantis does not seem to have answers that resonate. Adding to the frustration is the way Stellantis has rolled out this change. Instead of gradually transitioning or offering both options, the company has gone all in on the Hurricane engine. This all-or-nothing approach has left many feeling like Stellantis is forcing a change they did not sign up for. The result? A growing divide between the company and the very people it depends on. Performance versus efficiency. The debate between performance and efficiency is not new, but Stellantis has thrown itself into the middle of it with the Hurricane engine. On paper, the engine sounds like a marvel of modern engineering. It features 2 low-inertia turbochargers for quick throttle response, advanced fuel injection systems for better efficiency, and a design that balances power with environmental responsibility. But the problem with paper is that it does not capture the full story. Critics argue that no amount of technology can replicate the raw, visceral feel of a V8 engine. The Hurricane may perform well in controlled tests, but on the road, it lacks the drama and excitement that have made Dodge and Ram vehicles so iconic. There is also a question of audience. The buyers who are drawn to Dodge and Ram are not necessarily looking for the most fuel-efficient option. They want power, they want performance, they want a vehicle that can tow a trailer, climb a mountain, or leave everything else in the dust at a stoplight. The Hurricane engine may deliver respectable numbers, but it does not deliver the kind of emotional experience that keeps people coming back. This disconnect is starting to show in the numbers. Buyers who might have been excited about a new Dodge Charger or Ram pickup are now looking elsewhere, drawn to competitors who still offer the V8 engines they love. Stellantis may have hoped the Hurricane engine would be a game changer, but so far, it seems to be pushing loyal customers into the arms of the competition. Losing ground to competitors. While Stellantis grapples with its identity crisis, other automakers are capitalizing on the opportunity. Companies like Ford Motor Company and General Motors are leaning into their strengths, offering vehicles that cater to a wide range of consumers. For example, Ford has doubled down on its traditional engines, ensuring its lineup appeals to both loyalists and newcomers. This competitive edge is not just about engines. It is about understanding the market and delivering what customers want. Stellantis, by contrast, seems to be stuck between trying to innovate and holding on to tradition. The result is a lineup that feels neither here nor there, too modern for traditionalists, too traditional for innovators. Take Ford's approach to its most popular models. The company has managed to introduce electric and hybrid versions of its best sellers without alienating its core audience. The Ford F-150 Lightning, for example, offers cutting-edge technology while still retaining the rugged appeal that has made the F-150 a household name. By offering options, Ford is showing that it understands its audience and is willing to meet them where they are. Stellantis, on the other hand, has gone all in on change. This might work for some brands, but for Dodge and Ram, it feels like a misstep. These are brands built on loyalty, and loyalty is not something you can take for granted. Dealers are feeling the impact of this competitive imbalance. While Ford and General Motors are thriving, Stellantis dealerships are struggling to move inventory. This is not just a financial issue, it is a reputational one. Every unsold vehicle on a Stellantis lot is a reminder that the company is losing ground to its rivals. Dealer desperation. For Stellantis dealers, the situation is becoming untenable. They are the ones on the front lines, dealing with frustrated customers and unsold inventory. And while Stellantis struggles to find its footing, dealers are left to fend for themselves. One of the biggest complaints from dealers is the lack of support from Stellantis. Marketing budgets have been slashed, leaving dealers without the resources they need to attract buyers. Compensation structures have been restructured, putting even more financial pressure on dealerships that are already struggling to stay afloat. Dealers are also grappling with a growing sense of isolation. In many cases, it feels like Stellantis is more focused on its corporate strategies than on the people who are actually selling its vehicles. This disconnect is creating resentment and frustration within the dealer network, and it is only getting worse. The Stellantis National Dealer Council has been vocal about these issues, but so far, their concerns seem to have fallen on deaf ears. In a letter addressed to Stellantis leadership, the council warned that the company's current path could lead to disaster. They pointed to the growing inventory surplus, the lack of incentives, and the alienation of loyal customers as signs of a crisis that could spiral out of control. A crisis of identity. At its core, the crisis at Stellantis is not just about engines or sales figures. It is about identity. Dodge and Ram are not just brands, they are institutions. They represent power, performance, and a sense of individuality that resonates with their audience. When Stellantis made the decision to shift away from traditional engines, it was not just changing a product, it was changing what these brands stood for. This is the heart of the issue. Stellantis seems to have lost sight of what made its brand successful in the first place. In its quest to modernize and adapt, it has alienated the very people who have kept these brands alive for decades. The Hurricane engine is a symbol of this struggle. It represents a company trying to move forward, but doing so at the expense of its past. And while innovation is essential in any industry, it cannot come at the cost of alienating your core audience. The road ahead for Stellantis is uncertain. The company faces mounting challenges, from inventory surpluses to competitive pressures to a growing disconnect with its dealers and customers. Whether it can overcome these challenges remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: Stellantis needs to find its way back to its roots, or risk losing everything. Failing incentive strategies. When it comes to selling cars, incentives can make all the difference. Discounts, attractive financing options, and special promotions are what pull customers into dealerships and push vehicles off the lot. Yet Stellantis, at a time when it needs these tools the most, seems to be falling far behind its competitors. While other automakers are offering aggressive incentives to entice buyers, Stellantis has taken a different approach, doing almost nothing. There is a noticeable absence of the discounts and financing deals that other companies are using to boost sales. Stellantis' reluctance to invest in incentives is leaving its dealers at a massive disadvantage, particularly in a market where customers are tightening their belts and weighing their options carefully. For dealers, this lack of support feels like being left out in the cold. They are the ones standing face to face with customers, trying to explain why Stellantis vehicles are priced higher and come with fewer perks compared to similar models from other brands. It is an unenviable position, and one that is leading to growing frustration within Stellantis' dealer network. Without strong incentives, customers are turning elsewhere. Buyers who might have been considering a Jeep or Dodge are now looking at vehicles from competitors who are making their products more appealing. Ford Motor Company, for example, has been ramping up its promotional efforts, offering zero-interest financing and significant discounts on its most popular models. Stellantis, by contrast, is offering little more than the vehicles themselves, and in a market this competitive, that is simply not enough. The pressure on dealers. Dealers are feeling the strain like never before. With little support from Stellantis, they are left trying to move vehicles that are increasingly hard to sell. The situation is made worse by the growing pile of unsold inventory sitting on their lots. Every day that a car remains unsold is a day that costs the dealer money, and with so many vehicles sitting idle, those costs are adding up quickly. Imagine being a Stellantis dealer with rows of unsold vehicles. Each car represents not just a missed opportunity, but an actual financial burden. Dealers are responsible for maintaining the inventory they hold, and the longer those cars sit unsold, the more expensive it becomes. Storage, insurance, and maintenance all add up, creating a situation where many dealerships are operating at a loss. This mounting pressure is creating tension between dealers and Stellantis' leadership. Dealers feel abandoned, left to deal with the fallout of the company's missteps while receiving little in the way of support or guidance. The Stellantis National Dealer Council has been vocal in its criticism, calling for the company to step up and provide the tools dealers need to succeed. So far, however, Stellantis' response has been underwhelming. This lack of support is not just hurting dealers, it is hurting Stellantis' reputation. Dealers are the face of the company for most customers, and when they are frustrated and overburdened, it shows. The result is a growing disconnect between Stellantis and its audience, a gap that competitors are all too eager to exploit. Rising prices amid declining sales. As if the lack of incentives was not enough, Stellantis has made another controversial decision, raising the prices of its vehicles. This move might make sense from a short-term financial perspective. Higher prices can help maintain profit margins even as sales decline, but in the long term, it risks alienating the very customers Stellantis needs to survive. In today's economy, affordability is more important than ever. Rising interest rates, inflation, and economic uncertainty have made consumers more cautious about how they spend their money. Buyers are looking for value, and they are not afraid to shop around to find it. By raising prices, Stellantis is sending a message that its vehicles are a premium product. The problem is that the market does not seem to agree. For many potential buyers, the higher price tags on Stellantis vehicles simply do not match the perceived value. Jeep, for instance, has seen the average cost of its vehicles rise dramatically. Popular models like the Wrangler Rubicon are now priced at levels that make even the most loyal customers think twice. Dodge is facing a similar issue, with its performance cars becoming increasingly out of reach for the average buyer. The result is a widening gap between Stellantis and its competitors. While other automakers are finding ways to keep their prices competitive, Stellantis seems to be doubling down on a strategy that is pushing customers away. Ford, Chevrolet, and Toyota are all offering vehicles with similar or better features at lower price points, making Stellantis' lineup a tough sell in comparison. The affordability problem. The issue of affordability goes beyond just the sticker price. For many consumers, the cost of ownership is just as important as the initial purchase price. Fuel efficiency, maintenance costs, and resale value all play a role in determining whether a vehicle is worth the investment. And in these areas, Stellantis is struggling to compete. Take fuel efficiency for example. While Stellantis has made strides with its newer engines, many of its older models remain less efficient than those offered by competitors. This puts Stellantis vehicles at a disadvantage in a market where rising fuel prices are a major concern for buyers. Then there is the issue of maintenance. Stellantis has faced criticism for the reliability of some of its vehicles, with repair costs often higher than those of competing brands. This adds another layer of expense for buyers, making Stellantis vehicles an even harder sell. Finally, there is resale value. In a market where depreciation can make or break a vehicle's long-term value, Stellantis is falling behind. Buyers know that vehicles from brands like Toyota and Honda tend to hold their value better over time, making them a safer investment. Stellantis, by contrast, has struggled to shake the perception that its vehicles lose value quickly. The inventory crisis. One of the most visible consequences of Stellantis' affordability issues is the growing pile of unsold inventory. Dealerships across the country are struggling to move vehicles, with some lots holding hundreds of unsold cars. This surplus is not just a logistical problem, it is a symptom of deeper issues within the company. For one, it highlights the disconnect between Stellantis and its audience. The vehicles sitting on dealership lots are not what customers want, whether due to outdated designs, high prices, or a lack of features. features. Stellantis has been slow to adapt to changing market demands, and the inventory crisis is the result. It also underscores the challenges Stellantis is facing in its relationship with dealers. Many dealers feel they are being left to shoulder the burden of the company's missteps, with little support or guidance from Stellantis. This has created a growing sense of frustration within the dealer network, one that is unlikely to be resolved without significant changes from the top. The inventory crisis is not just a problem for dealers, it is a problem for Stellantis' reputation. Customers who visit dealerships and see rows of unsold vehicles are unlikely to be impressed. It sends a message that Stellantis is struggling, and in a competitive market, perception matters. Chrysler and Ram. Chrysler and Ram, two brands that were once cornerstones of the Stellantis empire, are now grappling with an uncertain future. Chrysler, in particular, is facing the harsh reality of a shrinking lineup and a dwindling market presence. With only two models currently available, the Chrysler 300 sedan and the Pacifica minivan, the brand has little to offer in a market that is increasingly dominated by sport utility vehicles and crossover utility vehicles. This limited portfolio not only restricts consumer choice, but also positions Chrysler at a significant disadvantage compared to competitors with more diverse offerings. The Chrysler 300, a model that once represented luxury and power, is now struggling to remain relevant in a market that has moved on. Meanwhile, the Pacifica, while still a strong contender in the minivan segment, cannot carry the weight of the entire brand. What makes matters worse is the lack of innovation and investment from Stellantis leadership. Reports suggest that proposals to revitalize Chrysler have been dismissed, leaving the brand stuck in a cycle of stagnation. Ram is also in a precarious position, though its challenges are rooted in affordability. The discontinuation of the Ram 1500 Classic, a popular entry-level model, has left a noticeable gap in its lineup. This decision has effectively pushed up the starting price for Ram's trucks, making them less accessible to budget-conscious buyers. While newer models come packed with advanced technology and powerful performance, their higher price tags are alienating a significant portion of the market. For both brands, the stakes are incredibly high. Without significant changes, Chrysler risks fading into irrelevance, and Ram may find itself losing loyal customers to competitors like Ford and Chevrolet, who continue to offer strong alternatives at more competitive prices. Jeep and Dodge. Jeep and Dodge, two of Stellantis' most iconic brands, are also facing an uphill battle. Jeep, synonymous with adventure and ruggedness, is struggling to maintain its foothold in an increasingly crowded market. Rising prices across its lineup are causing many potential buyers to reconsider. Models like the Wrangler Rubicon, once a symbol of off-road capability, now come with price tags that rival luxury vehicles. While Jeep's vehicles remain popular, the growing affordability gap is making it difficult for the brand to attract new customers. Dodge, on the other hand, is facing a crisis of identity. Known for its muscle cars and unapologetic power, Dodge is now caught in the transition toward electrification. The shift away from traditional engines has left many loyal customers feeling alienated. Electrified versions of classics like the Dodge Charger may align with industry trends, but they lack the raw thrill that fans have come to expect. Both brands are at a crossroads. Jeep must find a way to balance its rugged heritage with modern affordability, while Dodge needs to reconcile its bold past with its electrified future. Without decisive action, the legacy of these iconic brands could be at risk. But what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comment below.